In this video, I'm going to bring you the best tips and tricks for beginners in PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds. We'll go through about 10 to 15 different strategies that I've definitely used within this game. Let's start with some simple stuff. Parachuting in the game is fairly difficult, and if you're not really used to it, it can take a little bit of time to get used to. Now, there are two things that you really need to know when you are jumping out of the plane. First of all, where are you trying to get to? And secondly, is there anybody following you? If you're on your own, you can pretty much take your time with parachuting and you don't have to worry about getting to the ground first and picking up a weapon in order to kill your enemy. If you are with people, however, it is really important to get to the ground first and of course pick up the guns. Now, in order to drop fastest, you need to aim at the ground. You'll notice at the bottom left hand corner of the screen, your speed will pick up to around 230 kilometers per hour. When you get to this top speed, it means when you deploy your parachute, you will drop faster, and you'll notice that people who get this right always hit the ground first. If you're looking for distance, you need to aim towards the horizon. Your speed will slow down, but you will be able to go further. You can also deploy your parachute early, and that way you can hover all the way down to the ground and get to a further destination than you would if you were just free falling. Rocking your parachute is also really important to get extended distance, and if you want to get to the ground, obviously just spiral down and aim towards the floor. Next up is where to actually drop. Working out where the plane is flying is the first thing you need to do. Click on the map as the plane spawns and you'll notice that the plane is flying in at a certain angle. Map that out with your marker. If you're in a squad, you can all have a go at it and try and work out where it's going to go. Then you can work out which places are actually within range. Dropping at places like Novo, the military base, Georgopol or Pochinki is often good when looking for high loot, but the problem is you'll have lots of other players there too. I often like to go to places that are just on the outskirts of town, loot up and then go into the town to find people, or maybe wait on the edge of the circle for people to come out of the town and bring their loot to me. I kill them, take their loot, and I get the best of both worlds. Also, dropping in the centre of the map will give you a better chance to be in the circle. I know it doesn't really make sense as the circle is completely random, but obviously if you're in the middle of the map, you'll have less distance to go if the circle was, say, in the corner of the map. Say you drop at Novo and then the circle's up at Georgopol, you've got a long distance to cover, and if you're new to the game, that can be really, really difficult. Often what I like to do, especially when I was starting, drop somewhere in the centre of the map and make my way from there. Looting is key in PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds. If you're not very quick at looting, this is something you definitely want to try and work on. It's not a necessity to be super speedy, but it will definitely help you stay alive in a lot of situations, especially when you first drop. Also aim for priority items. If you drop to the ground and there's someone next to you, take the gun as soon as you can. If you see them pick up the gun, you can be sneaky and take the ammo from it and run away. There's little things like this that will definitely help you, and if you get quick at looting, you're going to find it really beneficial. I also like to look for things like backpacks and of course headgear and armour as soon as possible. Things that aren't very important right at the start can be attachments for weapons and things like that. Of course you want them, but at the very start you just need to be finding a gun and killing the person that's next to you. Next up, we'll take a brief look at the guns in the game. Now, when you first drop, close range engagements are going to be the focus, so any gun is going to be useful. Picking up a shotgun, UMP or Vector will be very good at the start. Even a pistol can be useful if you're up against someone who either isn't very good or they haven't got a gun. An AR is key in the game, and I would suggest everyone having one at the beginning or the end of the game. Having an AR is great as it's capable of both single fire and automatic fire. It takes care of long range and close range engagements and is usually the easiest to find attachments for and things like that. Snipers are of course fantastic. I definitely recommend an 8x scope on a Kar 98K. The 4x is nice, but the 8x is best, and if you are lucky enough to find a drop and pick up an AWM or an M24, you might even get a larger scope in one of the crate drops, but they are of course better than the Kar. What I would suggest though is definitely have an AR in your loadout. When it comes to scopes, as we just mentioned before, the 8x is really, really useful. If you've ever come up against a set of players where you don't have a scope and they do, you'll notice they pretty much kill you every time if you try and engage them. The red dot sight is fantastic close to mid-range, but long range, you've got no chance. So picking up a scope and trying to find one should be pretty high priority if you're looking to engage at medium to long ranges. Also, if you're in a squad and you have a 4x and an 8x and your teammate doesn't have either, definitely split them up between you so you've both got a bit of range. It's little tactics like this that can really help you out throughout the game. Now a little section on medical supplies in the game. Always make sure you have meds evenly distributed between your squad, pick up as much as you can, and bandages can be really useful, so maybe I wouldn't go overboard and have 30 or 40 of them, but I definitely have 10 to 20 of them available at all times. You never know if you get stuck outside the circle how valuable these things can be. Stimming up is really important, so make sure of course you pick up energy drinks and painkillers whenever you find them. If the circle's coming in, stim up as best you can. This will ensure that you're not losing a lot of health when you're in the gas at the very early stage. And at the end stage as well, it's also important to be stimmed, so if you get shot, you go back behind cover and it's automatically generating you health. Saves you a little bit of time when applying bandages and first aid kits, and it's also, of course, free health. Onto the circles, the damage increases the further into the game you go, so the final circle will do a huge amount of damage compared to the first circle. You'll often see me in games stay in the first circle for quite a while, and then drive in, and then of course try to stay out of the final circle at all costs. Being stimmed will definitely help you, but again, the later into the game you are, the more priority you should give to staying out of the circles. The speed changed of the final 2 circles recently and they are slightly slower, however I still would recommend running before the timer actually runs out on the bottom right hand corner. You can get caught up in engagements and find yourself stranded in the circle. It's happened to me many times, so keeping an eye on the timer is very important. Don't assume people won't be in the blue zone though. I've been in the final circle many times only for someone in the gas to shoot me in the back. You need to make sure that you're double checking around there because people will do anything just to get a kill, even if it means they're going to die in the zone themselves. This brings me on to third person peeking. You've all probably noticed this in the game. You can click Alt on your keyboard and look around when you're running, and you can also look from behind trees as if your soldier's camera is positioned about 10 feet behind him. This is really powerful in the game, and whether you like it or not, you need to learn how to master it. I would suggest making use of it when you're in the final circle, peeking trees and trying to see where people are before running from cover to cover. You can also help your team out by calling out things you see while you're hiding behind cover. Another tip, if you're playing singles, duos or squads, you need to change your strategies. When you are playing solos, you can drop into a very small area and pick up a load of loot just for yourself, but if you're in squads, you need to drop to a bigger area. Also, if you're playing squads, you can split up in the final circle. Not always recommended, but sometimes it does work. If you're playing solos, you only need to think about yourself, and of course cover is a lot easier to find. Vehicles in the game are very interesting because they can not only get you around the map fast, but they can also provide another strategy. I wouldn't recommend having them in the final circles, although sometimes they do provide good cover, but at the beginning you can definitely drop onto a vehicle and drive to a different place on the map where the plane didn't fly over. The Dacia is the best car, it's the fastest and will obviously hold 4 people, so perfect for squads, while the UAZ is slower but slightly stronger. The buggy's fantastic for solo play, but not very good for duos as the person on the back's very exposed, and motorbikes are pure death traps, but pretty good if you're looking just to nip between buildings. I'd also recommend to not use cars when you're looking to be sneaky. The sound will definitely alert enemy players, and when you stop it's very obvious to enemies where you are, so I'd really recommend using them only when you're trying to escape the zone or get to a place that's really far away. I'd otherwise recommend running, as that can save you a lot of hassle in game. If you're in squads as well and there are 2 cars, definitely take them in 2 sets of 2s. That way that if one of you is getting shot at and the car explodes, your whole squad doesn't die. I'd also not recommend going solo in cars in squads and taking 4, because when you're in 2s, one person can shoot out and one person can drive. Next we're going to take a quick look at doors when looting. Some people say to leave them open while others say to keep them closed. Now there's 2 arguments here. If you leave them open, people will know that you're there. If you leave them closed, people might push you unexpectedly and then you can shoot them in the face when they open the door. For me, I like to leave everything open. That way there is no confusion. I know if I've looted somewhere, and then if I do see closed doors, I know someone's either going to be hiding in there or those buildings haven't been looted. Either way, I can be very suspicious of closed doors in the game. You can also shoot out doors with grenades and guns in the game. If you think someone's camping behind them, just shoot it, the door will collapse. And then that way you'll often hear movement in the building if someone's in there, or the door's gone and then they can't close it on you. The final tip that I'd like to give for beginners in this game is positional awareness. Don't worry if your aim is really bad in this game, although it will help you to have an improved aim, as it would in any shooter game. Having good positional awareness will definitely help you more. Knowing where enemies are, knowing when to push, knowing where to hide, that's the key. And you'll find yourself winning a lot more games when you've got used to that. So don't fret if you've been playing for a couple of hours and you keep getting shot in the back of the head by a sniper. You'll soon learn how to deal with that, and positional awareness is something you'll definitely improve the more you play. Hopefully you found this guide useful. If you did, please leave a like down below and leave any strategies you have for Battlegrounds players down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.